In October last year, I interviewed Stuart Byrne. Stuart is the chairperson of Dyslexia Gibraltar. And in our chat, we discovered lots of things about dyslexia, but what we realized was that we were just scratching the surface. So we have decided to embark on a 6-part documentary, really, talking about dyslexia. Stuart, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, I thought that it would be good to try and see it from different points of view. So we're looking at parents, teachers, children, people in the workplace, just to have a bigger understanding of dyslexia.
So why don't you join us on our journey as we ask ourselves, why dyslexia? Hi, welcome to Why Dyslexia. This is a podcast that we have decided to do to tell you a little bit more about dyslexia, to unpack all those questions that maybe you have about what it is like to be dyslexic. I did a podcast with Stuart Byrne, who is the chairperson of Dyslexia Gibraltar, in October, and Stuart and I talked about a lot of things, and we realized that there was so much more to discuss. So we decided to embark on this six-part series on what it is to be dyslexic and how it affects people, how it affects parents, how it affects children, how it affects teachers, and people in business. We're going to be talking to a lot of people. And today we have two great, young, brilliant minds. Alexa and William are both here. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
They're going to be telling us a little bit about what it's like for them as kids, growing up in Gib, going through the schooling system in Gibraltar. There's so many questions I'm going to ask them, and hopefully we'll be able to unpack a little bit more of what it is to be dyslexic. So, Alexa, shall we start with you?
Okay.
Tell me something. Tell me, what do you enjoy about school?
There's quite a few things that I enjoy about school, but one of the main things that I remember in GCSE was learning languages. I learned GCSE French and Spanish, and one of the main reasons why I enjoyed it so much as a dyslexic person is because you learn the language in 4 different ways. So they teach you to read, write, speak and listen. And I think just the variety of learning just helps us understand it even more.
And the way they kind of probably break it down.
Yeah.
So that's that. What about you, William? What do you think about going to school? How's it been for you?
I mean, it's quite tough because some of the teachers expect like more from you, even though, like, for example, they're like you want to do more writing or like more reading or something, and it's more difficult.
But are they understanding that you're dyslexic?
I mean, some of them will understand, but some of them will like keep trying to push, even though
Right.
like
So you
it's
think that too?
established.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And what about other people around you in school? How do they deal with it?
Thing is, other people in school don't really like mind it.
Right. Are there other dyslexics in school with you?
Yeah, like I don't know off the top of my head, but I think I have like 2 or 3 classmates with me that are also dyslexic.
So, Alexa, do you think that helps, having other children in your class who are dyslexic?
I would not be able to know because I don't know anyone in my year who is dyslexic.
Wow,
The
really?
only person who I know is my cousin. And I think he's 23 now.
He's older than you.
Yeah.
So you're 18 and William is 12. Is that right? And tell me something. What do you find quite difficult? What is like a bit of a struggle at school?
Oof, that's an interesting question. I'd say mainly because I have dyslexia in English with words. So
Right.
for me, essay-based subjects such as English and history, this is because I'm unable to organize my ideas on paper.
Okay.
This is due to my cognitive overload. So basically, this happens when I have too many things to think about because I think way too quickly. And if I have so many ideas in my head, that I forget them all and my mind goes blank.
Wow.
So in order to overcome this, I have access arrangements using a laptop, a separate room, extra time, And that just helps me. So using the laptop, it helps me just write down bullet points as soon as I remember them. I can type it quickly. I won't be able to care about typos. And then I can rearrange them as I want afterwards. So the main idea is to get the points down first.
And how do you get to this point where you are so organized? I mean, when you first discover you're dyslexic, you're how old are you, more or less?
It was year 10, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened? Something happened to you?
Yeah, so I found out in an English class, I believe it was Dyslexia Day, and they were informing us about what it's like to be dyslexic, the famous dyslexic people in the past and the present. And I remember watching this and thinking, I think I might be dyslexic. So I went home that day and I told my mum all about it, and she said, okay, let's get you tested. And a month later, I found out I was dyslexic. Yeah.
And have you been tested as well, William?
Yeah, I was tested, and as well, I was also tested by, I can't remember her name. Her surname, she used to work at Loretto. Her name was Miss Byrne.
Jessica Byrne.
Yeah, Jessica Byrne.
So we're going to be talking to her as well.
I can't remember when it was, but I went to her, we were doing sessions at her house, and she was like testing me for stuff, because she was going to work in like a different school, and basically like one of the things was you have to like do like testing with like dyslexic kids. So basically she was like testing me for stuff, and I found out, I always think I have ADHD. And she's like, no. And my mom's like, no, we already tested with Jessica. No, because like I'll just be like doing some random thing, and it's like, signs you have ADHD. I have all of them, and I'll be like, that doesn't make sense to me. But yeah.
Well, did being told that you had dyslexia make sense to you?
No, I just thought I was different, and it was bad.
And you felt you were different.
Yeah,
you felt you were different. Did you also feel you were different?
I did, but I didn't. So I really found out I was dyslexic in year 10. So my parents and I didn't know that when I was younger. So in order to compensate for this, I managed to improve my English and my spelling at a very young age. So I didn't find out until later on. So it was hit or miss, I guess.
Gosh, it's a lot of learning. No, I suppose it's about adapting to what is there, because it's not, you're bright and you can do the same thing as everybody else, but just in a different way. Is that how you could describe it?
We can do the same things as everyone else, but we just see it differently. So the expression "think outside the box," for us, we're already thinking outside the box, and we need to look inside the box to view everyone else's perspective. That's at least how I feel about it.
Okay, so tell me, how do your parents deal with you? How are your mum and dad? Do they help you at home?
Yeah, mostly. Usually, like, for example, my mom used to help me, like, if I needed to do an English thing, because in Loretto, we never had, like, because in prior you have something called PLD, which is personal learning device, and that's this computer that helps you and you have dictate. But before, my mom used to have to, like, get it and write it for me. So before, with English, she would have to write it for me, but now she's usually like, use dictate, because it's easier than me writing it for you.
So she's helping you a lot, helping you to structure your work.
Yeah.
And what about you, Alexa? Because when you're year 10, you're quite young.
Yeah.
So I suppose your mum and dad have to now, they find out you're dyslexic, they have to learn how to deal with you guys. Is that right?
Yeah. So again, one of the main things that my mum helped me with was organization. So like the laptop, like I explained, it's also just organizing myself in order to study and find time to do homework, because I take a lot longer than my usual classmates to learn things, because I learn them in a different way. Because of that, I need to allocate more time to myself to find time to study.
At home?
At home.
So in school, for example, you're in a class with everybody else, and you have to keep up with everybody else.
Yeah.
And if you don't, what do you just make notes, or how do you?
I try and keep up in class as much as I can. The thing is, I do further maths and physics for A-levels.
What? But I suppose that maths is probably easier for you than English.
Yeah, maths suits one of my strengths.
Yeah.
That's why I picked maths-based subjects, but the people in my class are like geniuses. It is very hard to keep up with them. So I try my best in class. I make a few side notes if I need to, and then when I go home later that day, I try and catch up. I might not be able to finish it in that day,
Yeah.
but I try and compensate for it later on.
Okay. And you, William, what is your best subject at school?
Do you mean like best subject in general, or like best subject
I think
best subject because like even though I have dyslexia, like which one do you mean?
No, I mean the one probably that you are doing the best in school.
I reckon PE. I really like PE. But I mean, you don't really get like a grade for PE unless it's.
Well, you could do a GCSE.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't really
do
get
lots
a
of
grade for
things.
PE unless you do GCSE.
But you were telling me before that you're good at maths, like Alexa.
But the only problem is that we just started to learn algebra and it does not make sense.
Right. So what do you do when you're in a class with a bunch of other kids and your teacher's teaching you and you're finding that it's a little bit hard to understand what's going on, or you can't maybe keep up because you're not interpreting it in the same way as them? What do you do?
Thing is, usually that's how it goes. Like my teacher will go faster than me, and I will just lose a bit of notes. But then it's okay because I've got most of them down. So
it's a question of having to jot down everything that's going on so you don't miss out on things.
Yeah.
But you both sound like, because you're both in different schools. You're in the government system. You're in a private school. But there are resources there. There things are. You're being helped, and there are resources in place there to help you. Yeah, would you say that?
Yeah, I'd say not a lot of the teachers I have understand about dyslexia.
Okay.
They might think that it's one thing, but I don't think they understand it's another thing. So during GCSE, I had this one PE teacher, and she fully understood what dyslexia was. So in our GCSE class, she made sure that everyone got the same resources, the same materials as me. So she would make us do, for example, visual posters, because I'm a visual learner. So when we learnt the oxygenation of the heart, she made us make this really colourful poster of the blue and the red blood, and just the process of it and things like that.
And you learnt it, and everybody else learnt it the way you learn it.
Yeah.
So if every teacher would teach as if she was teaching a dyslexic, life would be a lot better.
Yeah, I think people would understand it better as well.
See, do you think more people could be made aware of dyslexia? I mean, we're trying to do it with this podcast, exactly why we're here. But do you think in school there should be more teachers who are, more able to understand it and adapt to the teaching methods required?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, there are a few teachers who might think dyslexia is one thing, but it ends up actually being another thing. So I think educating the teachers on what is best for dyslexic students is something that is really needed.
And would benefit everybody.
Yeah.
Tell me about bullying. Have you guys been bullied at all in school? Because I've spoken to some parents and they've said that their children have struggled with other kids, like making fun of them and thinking it's funny that you don't, learn properly, or that you're not normal in inverted commas. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes.
It has. Tell me about that.
Thing is that I've been bullied like that, but as well, I've been bullied like in other ways, but not because I've had dyslexia. Like just because, like, it's me.
Right. You don't think it's because of your dyslexia?
Like, it has been, but at the same time, it hasn't. Like,
you think
it has? Like, people have done it because of that, and then other people have done it just because.
And have you felt like vulnerable? Have you felt like a bit kind of, worried that when that happens? How does it make you feel?
It makes me usually feel really sad. Or it makes me feel really angry as well.
Do you try and tell them, look, I'm dyslexic and I just learn in a different way and that's all that's wrong with me?
Well, yeah, but people don't really understand that because they have a closed mindset. So if I try and explain it to them, they're just like, you can't spell. And it's not.
And they think
I find it more difficult to spell because I'm dyslexic.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make me stupid.
Absolutely not. Yeah. On the contrary, you're probably much more creative in other ways. They just don't know it. No?
Yeah.
Would you say that? Has that happened to you though? Have you felt a little vulnerable in class when you're trying to do something and?
Yeah. Occasionally. It doesn't happen very often because I found out later on in school, and thankfully most of the girls had matured by then. So when they found out, they just said, "Oh, okay." And when I told my friends the first time round, they didn't actually understand what it was. And I was a little bit hesitant at first to tell them that I was dyslexic because I wasn't sure how I would react.
Really?
Yeah. So I was a bit scared at first, and then I thought, well, it won't change how they see me because they're my really close friends. And if it does change how they see me, well, they shouldn't be my friends.
And what happened?
It was really funny because my close friend that I've known since year 5 in Loreto, she told me, "I assumed you were. I thought you were from a young age. I just didn't want to say anything."
Wow. So
Yeah.
she knew about it.
Yeah, she had a feeling.
Yeah.
And I still didn't know what it was when I was told I was dyslexic. So I thought that was really funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she's still your friend, obviously.
She is, yeah. She's
And have
still
you had friends who kind of dissed you and just no?
No.
You haven't had that experience.
No, not really. Thankfully,
I'm really glad.
Yeah.
I'm really glad.
Yeah.
William, once you find out that you're dyslexic, and all these things are put in place, like your mum knows how to deal with you, and at school, that the teachers are made aware, do things improve in the way that you can now learn?
I mean, yeah, because it's not like, for example, it's not like the teachers, like, giving me, like, because they give us, like, sanctions, and, like, then if you get, like, if, like, a teacher gives you, like, a sanction so many times in a lesson,
Yeah.
it turns into a detention.
But that's because you've misbehaved.
No, that's because, for example, let's say because if you haven't done enough, a teacher will assume that you are either, like, talking with your friends and not concentrating, and then you figured it out and then try to do it, and then obviously you haven't been able to because you've been talking or you've been distracted or whatever.
So then you get a sanction.
But then when oh my god, when you go ahead and they actually know what, like, the fact that I'm slower because it's not my fault,
then they
it
realize
becomes easier.
Okay.
Like, up to a certain point, it's not going. They're gonna realize, but like, like, before that, it's gonna be like, obviously, I just wasn't able to catch up.
So teachers at your school that teach you, are they aware of that you're dyslexic?
I mean, yeah, we have teachers that are specifically
trained
stuff for dyslexic.
Okay.
Dyslexic.
Do you have that in Westside?
Yes,
do you have
we
teachers
do.
who are?
We don't have specific subject teachers, but we do have a department for special educational needs.
Okay.
And they sort things like access arrangements, and for us to be examined in separate rooms.
So I suppose now you're doing your A-levels in June.
Yes.
So, and you've done your GCSEs, I guess. So do you get like special extra time or what?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I get extra time, a laptop to organise my thoughts.
And you can have that during the exam?
Yes. I only use it for physics though, because for maths you don't really need it. But it does really help when it comes to lengthy questions in physics.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. William, tell me something. What do you think are your strengths? What are you like really good at?
I think something I'm really good at is thinking about multiple things at a time. Like, for example, if someone was like, okay, I need to remember to do this, and this. I mean, I'm not the best at organising, so I probably wouldn't give that as an example, really. But, for example, let's say I want to do, like, this many stuff, or I have a bunch of ideas. Like, for example, if I need to start a story, I just think for like 10 seconds, get the main gist of a story, and then just start.
And how?
And then just end up twisting the story, like, all around the place.
And do you write it down when you have the thought and you've thought about it and you know? What do you do? Do you write it down?
No,
or?
I just keep it in my head mostly.
And you can do that, and you don't forget.
Yeah, for me, when I was writing stories in English, I would write down the main point, but like he said, it just goes haywire. It goes in one direction then the other.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's happened to you, but
like, I'll have an idea and then I'll forget some of the idea, so I'll just try and like fix the idea into something else. For example, it's like if you break a wall and you try and like well, that's not a good idea. If you get a piece of paper and tear it and put sellotape over it or glue or whatever, that's basically like you're using something else as
fix.
like with the main idea.
Okay, so you look at ways to tackle it, like a lot of ways to tackle it, rather than maybe somebody would just do that. You would, so you're good at finding solutions to things. Is that?
Basically, I will find like if there's a puzzle with 500 pieces, I'll find about like let's say 250 pieces, and then I'll just pick up like 10 pieces like randomly and just place those pieces in.
And are you creative?
Yeah.
Do you like art?
I like art, but the problem is I have a really bad art teacher, so not really.
Okay. So what is it that you're really good at? Apart from thinking lots of things, what else are you good at? Do you play football?
I do, but I'm not very good at that one.
Okay.
I play hockey. I'm okay at hockey.
Well, there you are. Alexa
hockey
plays
as well?
hockey.
I also play hockey.
Yeah. So are you good at sports, Alexa? Is that?
Yeah, I've always been quite athletic
Yeah.
since I was younger. That could also be because my dad is also athletic.
Yes.
But I've just always enjoyed sports, every single one of them.
And do you think sports is a way of kind of like coping with this, like releasing your pent up frustration? Maybe if you have any stresses.
Not just for us, but for everyone in general. Just it helps to relieve stress. Like it just takes your mind off of things, and you're socializing with your friends. You're having fun.
Yeah.
And in the end of it, you get exercise. So it's a win-win.
What about you?
I like sports, but like when I was younger, I've always been good at sports. Like I've been athletic as a kid as well. But for example, I like sports because it was just fun. But then as well, for example, when I found I had dyslexia as well, I like sports more because it doesn't mean I have a disadvantage. Like for example, if I have to do a test or writing, I have a disadvantage because I have dyslexia, but dyslexia doesn't mean I have a disadvantage when I'm playing a sport.
Absolutely. But I think dyslexia doesn't mean you'll have a disadvantage anyway.
Yeah.
I think you just have to adapt the way you learn things. I don't think it's a negative. Do you see it as a negative?
I just think of it as we see things differently than a usual person would. So it might take us a while to figure it out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it's a negative thing. No.
What would you tell other kids who maybe have just discovered they're dyslexic?
That it's not all bad, and the fact that, for example, even though like you just see bad things, you'll eventually see good stuff. For example, like I'm really creative or whatever. So for example, that I don't know if that's because I'm like who I am or because dyslexia like helped that. But for example, you'll find that like let's say creativity or whatever, or like art or something that doesn't really put like reading, writing or spelling, you will mostly probably
enjoy more,
see that.
maybe. Yes, I can see that. I think quite a lot of dyslexic people are very creative. No, do you think that as well? What would you tell other people who are dyslexic, who maybe have just been diagnosed and who are like worried about it? Would you say the same thing? That
I would say the same thing, but one of the things that I've come across is that just because it takes you a long time to do it doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yeah.
You might have to find a way around it, a different way of doing it, or even just changing what you do. But it doesn't mean you can't do it, even if you find a different style of doing it.
So when you set yourself a goal, do you go for it 100%? Because I'm sure you seem like the type who would do whatever they needed to do to get there.
Yeah, I try my best. Yeah, it can be hard sometimes.
Can it? What is the hardest thing about it, Alexa? For you?
I think communication, because there's times where I want to get my point across.
Right.
But I just can't find the right words or phrases to say it. And it can be extremely frustrating.
Is it more frustrating in school or outside school?
A bit of both.
Okay.
Since my subjects in school don't require much communication, it affects me less in school. But I think just sometimes day-to-day chatter with my friends, my family. It can be quite hard when I really want to express something that I don't know that I care deeply about, and I just can't.
So what do you do?
I take my time. My parents say, take your time, try and find the right words, and just express yourself the best way you can, basically.
Okay. Do you find that, Will, when you're at school or even with your friends or outside school, that you find communicating is difficult? Because you seem like quite a good talker.
I like talking and it's used to talk to people, but at the same time, depends what I'm talking about. Because if I'm trying to get the point across about dyslexia, it's like trying to argue with a dumb person.
Okay.
Because you have to try and find ways and means to let them understand what you're trying to say.
So what do you say to people who for example, you have to talk to maybe or at school or even outside school, and they're not getting what you mean?
What I have to try and do is try and make it very simple.
You break it down for them, no?
Yeah, because for example, I'll be like, it's more difficult. Like instead of saying I can't spell properly because I'm dyslexic and it's more difficult with organization or whatever, and then they're like, but it's not that difficult. I'm like, okay, because I have dyslexia, it makes it more difficult because my brain works differently. So I see words, like when I try and write stuff, I try and spell it. My brain is not like try and spell the word, tries to spell it phonetically. And then I've got my point across by saying it really simply.
Do you think exams should be verbal rather than written?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
That would really help you. Do they do any verbal exams at school?
I think they do for subjects like Spanish and French, but I don't like Spanish or French. I'm getting there with Spanish, but
you find
I'm not. My school doesn't make me do French, so I don't have to do French because I do something called LDP. I think it's LDP. Yeah.
And you, Alexa, what do you think?
I don't think so. Like I said before, I use a laptop to help organize my thoughts. Yeah. And if we had a verbal examination, it'll just take everything away from what I have. In the cases of languages like Spanish and French, it's okay because you're practicing. It's part of the language is speaking it. But for things like maths, if they ask you to solve a problem verbally, it's a bit of a problem.
Really hard to do. So tell me about your future plans. You're doing your A-levels?
Yeah.
You hopefully want to go to university?
Yeah, I'm hoping to go to university this September. I've applied for 5 different unis, including York, Surrey and Kent. I am hoping to do something in either maths or physics. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do, but just something in that field.
Amazing.
Yeah.
William, you're 12, so you've still got a little bit to go. What year are you in?
Year 8.
Year 8, okay. So you've got exams, I suppose, every year, and at some point you're in the equivalent of Bayside or Westside, I suppose, year 8. No, they start at year 7, year 8. How do you deal with exams? What's next for you? How do you carry? Do you just carry on the way you're going, or do you keep learning about new ways to deal with your studying?
Depends, because for example, sometimes the school implements new stuff. Like for example, I had no idea Scribe existed.
Okay. What is Scribe? Sorry,
a Scribe is basically a reader. Basically, a Scribe is where you tell it to someone and they write it for you.
Oh, okay.
Or a reader is, for example, if I have a big chunk of text, unless it's English, because sometimes you have to read something and then look for the answers in the text. But that you don't get a reader. But for example, in most subjects, I usually get a reader or a writer. I've been using my laptops for the past, I think it was the November exams, but yeah.
So all those things help you?
Yeah.
And do you learn new ways to improve your studying and improve your, what you find difficult?
I'm still trying to find a good way to study, because there's multiple ways, but I don't know like a specific one that works for me.
Maybe you can get some advice off Alexa. She's a little older and she's probably been through it, no?
Yeah, I'm still at 18 years old trying to figure out the best way for me to study. I still haven't found that out, but I have found, because I'm a visual learner, flashcards, spider diagrams with colours and diagrams, they work best for me because I can see it. And sometimes I get my mum, so if I'm learning definitions for physics, sometimes I get my mum to read it out to me so I can see it and hear it and visualise it at the same time in my mind.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Great. Tell me something. Last question. We're nearly done now. We've been chatting for half an hour. Tell me your favourite thing about being dyslexic. Have you got a favourite thing?
Probably the fact that I don't like something I really, really hate is the ideal of being normal.
Okay. So you like being a little different.
Yeah, I just hate the ideal of being normal. That's why
I love that. I do too,
for example,
to be honest.
The fact that I'm dyslexic, it doesn't matter what I do that's normal. I will always be at least a bit different.
And you like that, and you
Yeah.
should embrace that, William. So that's a great answer. What do you think? I absolutely agree with him.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not sure. I think that answer will come to me later on in life. But at this point in time, I don't have.
You have nothing that's your favourite thing.
No.
Well, I've got to say thank you to both of you because you've really opened your hearts to me and to everybody else, and you've shared a lot of experiences which have been good and bad. So thank you very, very much. And yes, stick with us. We've got 6 episodes. We're going to be talking to lots of other people, and thank you very much for watching and listening.
One in 5 people are dyslexic. Do you think you might be dyslexic? Please get in touch with us at Dyslexia Gibraltar and scan the QR code to follow us on all our social media platforms. Please watch, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel Dyslexia Gibraltar.